solo leveling, if you remember earlier in the story, as one of his rewards, Jin Woo was given a top secret S-rank curse key, which he didn't meet the requirements to use. Now, after the Jeju Island Arc where he ended up reaching level 100 during his battle against Beru the Ant King, he's finally able to see just what exactly this key does, as its description tells him that its name is the Carteon Temple Key. This key allows Jin Woo to enter the Carteon Temple, but it can't be activated unless he goes to a specific gate, and that gate's location will only become available in 417 hours. He immediately realizes that this is it. This is the place where everything started. The double dungeon that he visited when his powers first activated is the same place that this key would take him to, but things won't be the same as back then. Jin Woo thinks to himself that he's different than he was before, and he tells whatever is waiting inside to wait for him because he's coming. Now, as the days get closer to the gate appearing, the state of the world begins to change. Massive S-rank gates start to appear in various places around the world that take a lot of effort to close. However, a massive one is set to spawn in Shinjuku, Japan, causing the government to try and move and get as many heroes as they can there. Jin Woo himself was asked if he could go, but looking at his key with only 26 hours left, he says that he has something else to attend to, thinking that he can deal with it before the gate in Japan opens in 3 days. As the final moments arrive, he gets dressed and prepares to step out when Jin Woo's mom asks if she has anything to worry about, feeling some tension in the room. It's at this point where Sung locks in, telling his mom that he'll be right back as he activates the Carteon Temple Key and gets pinged to a gate that's already being worked on. As he arrives, he sees teams entering the gate and organizing around it, realizing that the key told him that the location of the gate would be revealed, but that doesn't mean that the gate would appear at the same time. So now he has to deal with the fact that there are a bunch of random people within the gate who don't know what they're getting themselves into. Warning the others on the outside that they need to call everyone back, he tells them that he'll head in and try and get as many people out as he can. As he enters, he spots a group of hunters all standing outside the door to the temple, wondering how they can get in. So as he steps up and they recognize him, he tells them that this place is extremely dangerous and they should all leave. The Dragon's Guild members there tell Jin Woo that they were the ones who purchased the right to raid this dungeon, so he has no right to tell them to leave. Jin says, "Sure thing. Anyone who wants to come can," as the leader of their party decides to enter into the room ahead and immediately has to get pulled back by his neck because a massive stone golem nearly crushes him with its massive sword. This is where we learn that this temple is only allowing Jin Woo access, so once again he tells the other hunters that they need to leave to tell the association that a double dungeon has appeared, as Jin Woo enters the room ahead all by himself and the door slams shut while a new arc begins. He walks through the double doors in complete darkness as flames start to light in torches across the vast chamber. All around stand massive statues, the same ones he remembers from that day, but Jin Woo has come so far that now he can actually feel what's going on here. None of the statues here are actually alive, they're merely puppets being controlled by someone, and that someone is the massive statue standing in the middle of the room holding the tablet. And once Sung addresses it asking why it won't say anything, it finally welcomes him to the Carteon Temple as a new test begins. At that moment, the statue spreads its massive wings across the room, sending air whooshing through the cavern as the angel destroys the stone tablet it was holding and says none of those commandments matter anymore, telling Jin Woo that it was the thing that called him here. Jin Woo questions, "Are you a monster? What are you?" And the angel responds to him telling him that he's asking the wrong thing. You should be asking yourself, "What am I?" As a test, the being tells Sung that if he's the last one standing in this room, then he'll answer all of our main characters' questions as the statues begin to spring to life and all start to attack him. At that moment, Sung says, "Come out," and we see the shadows start to surround him, but the angel snaps his fingers, telling him that there won't be any cheating in this test, and a prompt pops up saying that the use of job-specific skills is banned for the final test, so he's gonna have to do this completely alone. To make it even worse, he's been banned from using the shop to buy any items, and he can't use any of the rewards he's gotten from quests or level ups during this battle, while also being banned from using his status recovery. Finally, as the creatures begin to lurch forward even closer, one last prompt tells him that he can't leave this room until the test is over, meaning if he can't beat these things, he'll never go back home. So with those stakes set and Sung utterly shocked at how difficult this is about to be, he decides that there's no use complaining about it and settles on just trying to beat these things with raw strength alone. When one of the statues tries to take him out with a sword, he breaks a piece of it off and then throws it at the statue's head, hopping onto it to destroy his first statue as he heads towards the next. Using his daggers, he finishes off another as a massive archer shoots a giant stone arrow his way that he deflects before sending it right back with a kick. The angel statue is impressed as it looks down and watches Sung dodge through and take out statues here and there, but he has plenty left to go. It's here where, as Jin Woo is thinking that he can finally keep up with these things, the massive statue with the evil smile who sits there on the throne within the chamber finally stands up, and everything just stops, as things are about to get a lot more difficult. As Sung Jin Woo is facing off against the massive statues that took him out way back during their first season, he's making good progress on passing the angel's final test. However, the army of statues just won't stop coming. To make matters worse, the massive smiling statue in the room prepares a pair of red-hot eye beams to fire his way, so this is where Sung activates his Commander's Touch ability, which actually levels up at this moment into its final form, Commander's Authority. Using Commander's Authority, Sung Jin Woo basically has telekinesis as he grabs a pair of statues and launches them towards a laser beam to block the attack and keep it from reaching him. This is perfect because Sung says even at level 101, he can't take one of those attacks from that big guy, so instead of avoiding it, he's gonna have to get rid of it first to raise his chance of survival. To do that, he activates his speed skill and rushes towards the creature as it tries to stomp down on him, but ignoring that, he speeds up its leg, trying to go for a kill shot. At that moment, the statue begins to fire another laser down at Jin Woo, but thinking fast, he once again uses his Commander's Authority, this time to basically web yank himself up towards the statue's shoulder, where he stands as he's met with a shocked glance from this creature, before using his mutilation skill to try to blow the statue's head apart. This shockingly doesn't work, as it only leaves light scratches all over the monster, but he notices a crack along its face that he can start to focus his attacks on. So Sung Jin Woo leaps in and just starts battering this poor statue with punch after punch after punch, until finally the face starts to crack and it falls to the ground, defeated once and for all. After this, cleaning up the rest of the statues is simple, and Jin does it really quickly by just using Commander's Authority to force them all into the ground. But with that, thankfully, it seems like the test is over, right? From above, the angelic statue starts to clap, telling him he's done wonderful so far. But when Jin Woo asks if the test is over, the creature responds no, because Sung Jin Woo is still not the last man standing. After all, the angel is still in the room too. The angel says it will be Sung Jin Woo's final test, as he has 10 minutes to defeat the enemy or his heart will stop. But after all this, Jin Woo is still stuck on just what or who this thing is. To make him feel better, even though the angel says this is a stupid question, it finally gives him an answer, as half of the face of the statue begins to crumble away, and it reveals itself by saying, "I am the architect of the system." So next, let's explain what happens when Jin Woo comes across the person who designed his power. He's given one final test to defeat it within 10 minutes to get all the answers he's looking for, but if he doesn't win within that time, then his heart will stop. Unfortunately for him, the architect is extremely strong, turning its 6 angel wings into arms, which it uses to absolutely dominate Sung Jin Woo, as it knocks him around the chamber with ease and even speed blitzes him repeatedly with a barrage of mighty blows. But this doesn't last very long. Slowly, Jin Woo starts to adapt and redirect these punches so that they barely reach him, with only the air pressure from the punches being able to leave little scratches on him, and pressing the architect enough that the battle moves on to its next stage, with the architect landing a hit on Sung anyway, just to show him that it can, to which Sung responds by finally landing a hit on the architect, punching it so hard in the face that its stone side begins to crack even further. This creature starts to talk about how it never thought it would have this much fun battling against a human, which is definitely interesting because other monsters leading up to this point have referred to our main character like he isn't that. But in his head, Sung Jin Woo thinks to himself that the architect is constantly being surprised by him, so it must have thought that he wouldn't really stand a chance. This means that against all odds, not only is Sung Jin Woo holding his own, but he gets the feeling like winning here is possible. Buying himself a second to breathe, Jin asks the architect, "Why me? Why did you choose me to take part in the system and become a player? And how? How are you able to create all this? To give me these overwhelming powers?" The creature goes on to explain that it actually didn't choose Sung Jin Woo. It was opposed to the idea, in fact. However, as the architect and moderator of the player breeding system, it had no other choice but to comply. Here, our main character tries to land a long-range attack using Commander's Authority, but the architect does it as well, showing that it can use all the same skills as Jin Woo. To make matters worse, time is running out fast, so our MC tells himself that from here on out, he has to go full throttle or it's all over. Here, in one final rush, he realizes that everything is getting easier, like his sensors are turned up to 11. He can feel the axe, the sword, the spear, the neck swing, the one in his blind spot. He can sense it all. And as this is happening, the architect is noticing too. This isn't part of his design. And actually, just as he begins to notice how Jin Woo is starting to speed up, there goes one of its arms. Now this thing is really confused, realizing that something about Jin Woo is different, and maybe that's why he was chosen for the system. As of 3 minutes remaining, the boss begins to summon more and more statues to come to its defense, but it doesn't matter. For the next 49 seconds, Jin Woo frantically breaks through every statue that he can while dodging others and getting revenge on the ones that nearly ruined his life all the way back at the beginning of the series, until finally, with 2 minutes and 11 seconds left on the board, he stands on the chest of the architect of his dagger drawn at its throat, and the angel concedes defeat, declaring the test officially over. So now it's time for some answers. And the architect says those answers already exist inside Jin Woo, as a new dialogue box opens up asking Jin Woo if it's okay to restore the data in his memory, and when he selects yes, suddenly Jin Woo's mind is swept away from the temple and taken somewhere else. Somewhere ancient. As the astral projects, Jin Woo floats above a massive army of different creatures, from elves to orcs, goblins. Basically every type of monster is here in this horde, as they advance towards massive gates in the sky, causing Jin Woo to realize this is Earth. This is a vision of what would happen if the gates appearing all around the world dungeon broke at the same time, flooding the world of monsters that the human race wouldn't be able to handle. But something is wrong. They're just standing there. At that moment, the gates in the sky shatter apart as the sky is filled with glowing white wings painting the background. These wings get closer and closer until our main character can see that they don't belong to birds, but to giant silver soldiers that dive onto the battlefield and engage in a massive war against these monsters. And Jin Woo watches as this army slaughters the monsters easily, tearing through them like elite warriors as quickly the battle ends. However, as the soldiers begin to leave, suddenly a sound causes them all to turn. A horse clop, one single footstep of a beast that shouldn't be there, as they heard the word arise. Suddenly, the entire battlefield goes black, with purple lights flickering around, as all at once this mysterious figure uses shadow extraction on the entire army of monsters at once, while Jin Woo looks on towards the figure wondering if this is the true Monarch of Shadows. We see an armored knight sitting on a flaming purple shadow horse, and this has to be one of the coolest designs in the entire series, as the man's hair takes the shape of purple flames as well, and his cape flows through the battlefield like a shadow itself. What follows is a legendary battle where all of the shadows rejoin the war against the silver soldiers, now much more able to handle them and being able to take damage they couldn't before. The tide begins to turn, especially as this mysterious knight joins the battle as well, cutting apart silver soldiers with his massive dark blade as it continues to use different abilities we've seen Jin Woo use. However, right then, just as their victory seems as sure as the sun will rise, two massive new gates open on the battlefield, red and blue, as a new horde of demon knights and warriors exits through, and we see a massive white wolf joining them, letting us know that this battle was far more complicated than it seems at first. So let's keep following the story of the original Monarch of Shadows. And as we watch a massive demon army made up of all the different demon houses that Jin Woo has already destroyed at this point, we see that these armies used to be an issue, as unlike the silver soldiers, they easily tear through the shadow army, to the point where Sung wonders just how much mana the previous Monarch had, because by now Jin would have lost 100 times over. It's like this guy has an infinite pool or something. Still, regardless of this, you know how a battle against a necromancer goes. Eventually, you lose enough people that they gain enough to overcome you and your army, and that's exactly what happens, as eventually we see the Purple Knight walking towards the general of the demon army, asking him only one thing. We had the chance to defeat the enemy today, so why? Why did you betray me? As the previous Monarch of Shadows and the man go back and forth, eventually the Monarch grabs the demon by the head and squeezes until its mask breaks off completely. And this really confuses Jin Woo, because the demon that the Shadow Monarch is asking about betraying it was Baron the Demon King, who Jin Woo was already fought and defeated in the Demon Castle as a boss monster. What's he doing here? And wait a minute, at that moment Jin Woo realizes that he's gone from just being a floating spirit watching the battle to actually being in the first person perspective of the giant Monarch of Shadows from the past. This trips him out, as suddenly from inside, Jin Woo feels something that shouldn't be there. but that fits right in. A second heartbeat thumps in his chest, and he goes to place his hand near it as we see that within Jin Woo now lies a pitch black heart with his shadow energy humming from it. Right at that moment, the form of the previous Shadow Monarch begins to peel off of Jin Woo as he returns to himself and looks up to see a mysterious group of angels that was never defeated during all the fighting, and his eyes grow purple like he's about to try and join the fight in this vision of the past. Suddenly, the memory ends and Jin Woo is sent back to the current day where something is still wrong. You see, while Jin Woo was in this memory, what actually happened is that the other S-rank hunters found out about the gate and decided to venture in. And right away, they're met with the architect of the system who tells them this development is really interesting. As the architect catches them talking, it shushes them, saying, "How dare you disturb the king during his slumber?" As this thing is about to make a whole lot more noise when the other statues in the room begin to stand up. At that moment, one of the hunters says he's confused at why Jin Woo is just standing there in a trance. However, immediately he's cut in half by the architect, who tells the rest of the hunters in the room that they'll be perfect first offerings to the king when he wakes up. And you can literally feel the tension in the room as each of our S ranks begins to sweat. The architect laughs as he reanimates the giant statue that Jin Woo took down earlier, telling the hunters that since they want to intrude so badly, they can take part in a game. The rules are simple. Anyone who survives until Jin Woo wakes up gets the honor of witnessing the birth of the king. As Choi Jong-in from the Hunters Guild leaps into action first, realizing they can't just do nothing because the massive statue is firing a laser their way. As he dodges, he sends a firebolt towards the statue that is able to take it out of commission for a second. However, off on the side, A-rank Woo Jin-chul smashes his fist into one of the smaller statues as hard as he can, only to be shocked that it does no damage. Trying to help him out, Choi fires another one of his fire arrows at this statue, expecting to take it out just as easily as before. However, this time the statue completely ignores his flames. As they wonder how the hell Jin Woo is able to damage these things as badly as they have been already. This lets the leader of the Hunters Guild make the boss call and fire a bolt right at Jin Woo, trying to wake him up. But when he does that, the architect actually takes the attack himself, lunging towards Choi Jong-in in a mad dash, screaming at him for trying to awaken the king too early. Thankfully for him, his team is on it with some other S-tier defense as Woo Jin-chul gives Cha the order to wake up Jin as fast as she can, and we see her speed his way before the architect turns on her and tries to grab her from behind. It's here where Cha Hae-in actually holds her own pretty well against the architect using her sword dance, and as their battle goes on, the architect is actually really impressed with her, to the point where it seems like it's training her and is almost at the point where it might want to give her the system as well. Having injured her sword holding arm, this battle is basically wrapped up as the architect tells everyone that the system should be able to detect and respond to any possibility, so none of them ever had any chance in defeating it. However, as we watch everyone giving their last stand, this creature goes off to finish Miss Cha and is suddenly extremely confused when Cha is dragged to the side by her shadow. Seeing that Jin Woo is previously attached a shadow to her for her protection, it wonders what she is to the king, and when she says a friend, it's like the architect finally accepts Cha Hae-in, telling her that she alone will be allowed to witness the birth of the monarch. However, all her friends will need to die. Right then, a voice to the side says, "Not today," as the architect looks just a little too late before its face is bashed in and shattered apart. Confused, it screams, You are not the king!" However, Jin Woo begins to kick and stomp on this statue angrily, asking, "You, what did you do to my body?" Still freaking out, the statue says, "How are you still here? Even with the black heart, you're still conscious? But this isn't right." Realizing that something has gone wrong in the architect's plans, Jin Woo realizes that at this moment, he was supposed to be swallowed up by this system, but he had already decided that he would be the one to swallow the system up instead. So instead of rejecting this new power given to him, he decides to use it. But what does the Black Heart do? Well, first off, upon receiving the title of Demon Hunter, which Jin Woo got from witnessing his memory of the previous monarch defeating Baron, he was given the Black Heart as a reward, and it gives Jin Woo an additional 100,000 mana, which is insane given that Jin Woo only had 9,433 mana before this, so this is a crazy increase, allowing Jin Woo to access a level of power that he's never felt before. As the architect screams that the other monarchs won't allow the Shadow Monarch to just do as he pleases, Jin Woo summons his different daggers from out of his inventory and uses ruler's authority to make them float in the air behind him. From this point, the architect tries to take Jin's power again using the system, but it no longer has access, as Jin Woo smiles, wondering if this will cost him his powers, and destroys the architect entirely.